Hi class, this is Kendra Moyer. This is the week 9 video on object-oriented programming concepts. First I need to put forth a disclaimer. This is a very late video. I have been having some medical issues this semester, and I am also living in a situation where I have difficulty filming and getting quiet time, so I have been working on getting that together, and let's get started here. So object-oriented programming is, it describes abstract characteristics of real-life objects. So when we're talking about objects, we can basically talk about class as types of objects, object type, such as a field. So if Fido were a object, the class would be the dogs. An instance is an example of the class, as in Fido. So Fido is the name of a dog who is part of the class of dogs. Methods serve as a sort of function. So a dog class may equal eats in parentheses, comma, runs in parentheses, or sleeps in parentheses. So those are methods of things that the dog class can do. So each dog class, or each method underneath this dog class, would be treated as a function. The other concept that comes forth in object-oriented programming are attributes. So an attribute for the class of dogs would be things like the color of the dog, the hair color, the size of the dog, the breed of the dog. Those would all be distinguishing attributes of that class. And we use a period to connect between the attributes and methods. So this is indicated by a dot, usually between attributes and methods. Objects can also have other objects that belong to them with their own methods and attributes. So we might have an object that was Fido.tail.wags, followed by parentheses, and Fido.tail.type could equal bushy. So objects can have various attributes and methods assigned to them that can be separated by a dot or a period. And those become our values within a program. I'm going to go a little bit over this chart I made on my whiteboard, which is something that's fun to do if you guys get one. Let me see if you guys can see everything on here. So we're going to talk again object-oriented programming concepts. Class does not necessarily mean object. So in object-oriented programming, there's some concepts of tasks that are taking place within object-oriented programming. Let's see if I can get that glare off of there. So one of the first concepts, oh great, it's right in the middle, excuse me, is encapsulation. Encapsulation is putting data behind a shell, and a shell can be viewed as the basics of a program. It could be an operating system, a script, something that can be used to make something happen. So when we talk about encapsulation, we're talking about taking various bits of data, putting them behind a shell with a goal of that shell performing a particular function. Most often I'm aware of the shell I'm here about is the Linux shell, or the bash shell, the born again shell. So another some other ideas, I'm going to get a little more light going. Some other ideas around encapsulation include, oops, my light's not too good, but a library equals a class. So you can have a library of different types of dogs underneath the class of dogs. So there could be several different dog names, several different dog breeds, several different dog sizes, so forth. Next, instance. Instances are the objects of the class. So again, we talked about how Fido was an instance of a dog. Data intro are the attributes of the class. So if the dog has a fluffy tail, that would be an attribute. If the dog is yellow, that would be an attribute. And then class also equals a description of a specific group. And the example I'm using, that class is dogs. So, and again, we mentioned the shell, which is a bundling of data that is used for a specific programming purpose. And speaking of dogs, you're going to hear mine barking out here in the backyard a little bit. So we're going to move on a little bit to data abstraction. Data abstraction is a concept of data encapsulation and data hiding. Sometimes there are hidden files within our programs because we don't want to mess with them. I'm sure you've gone into your computer at times and found all kinds of crazy files and you have no idea what they're there for. And, you know, the wisdom is to leave them alone because there's a chance you could destroy your system, which I've done before. But those are hidden for that purpose so that the layman or the person who's just an average user doesn't mess around and destroy their operating system. And I'm going to make sure I got my actual sound settings recording my sound so I don't look up and have no sound. Okay, so I'm gonna go with I'm gonna hope that my audio came through. Moving on, we're gonna quickly talk about polymorphism. Polymorphism is the ability to present the same data for different underlying forms. So this would be data that falls down through nested lists, through different menus, and they're ordered, so they kind of have different functions, but they're nested, and each one is kind of programmed in as it's needed. And the final concept we're going to look at, and I hope we can get this on here on my video, is inheritance. Inheritance is the concept of deriving a class from another class for a hierarchy of classes that share a set of attributes and methods. And this is where our programs begin to work. The best concept I could say for inheritance would be a program where you went online to, say, register for a class, and after you registered, your data being entered would remove one slot from the class. That would be an example of inheritance. The next person who went on to register for the class would find fewer slots if they didn't get in quickly. And that's just kind of some of the concepts of how these forms work. I'm sorry, I'm like kind of have no concept of space here as I show this. Get a whiteboard, guys. It's great for presentations, and it kind of gives you a great way to get organized and share your thoughts. So again, object-oriented programming, as did other concepts, it took me a while to catch on. Reading about it was one thing, but I had to do it. I had to do it and do it and do it and do program after program and fail and fail and fail. And I was super frustrated, and it made me really anxious, which has also contributed to my videos being late. At points I really felt lost in these assignments, and my frustrations could get the better of me. I could get to a point to where I felt like I would program and program and program, and I wasn't getting the results I needed. I felt unsuccessful. It was just really, really frustrating. But practice and perseverance are really important in this coding, because if you can stick with it, I mean, I learned more by messing up a lot of programmings, redoing it, being frustrated, walking away. I have friends who actually do this for a living. I could have asked. I've been refusing to even ask. I really wanted to find out on my own how to do it. And, you know, just like when you're a little kid tying your shoes is the example I use. I remember just being frustrated and like, everybody else can do this, I can do it too if I keep trying. Just keep trying and persevere. It can be frustrating, but there's a reward for learning different ways of thinking. That's really what it is. And being meticulous and understanding that there are all these different software packages. I'm using a Linux system, and in the middle of all of this, my system crashed. I had to reload my system and my Python and my browser and my terminal and all kinds of things. They were no longer compatible. having to reinstall everything. But every step along the way, I learned something. I learned about different packages that really help us out. So thank you guys for taking a look at the week 9 very late video, and I will have the week 13 video up shortly as well.